What is it that MineRP does about architecture? We do everything we develop in context of a reference architecture for mining and for product architecture that allows integrated solution sets. And it's important when you look at your vendors and your suppliers that they recognize the value and the need for architecture. Because if they don't, they will bring you components that doesn't fit into the architecture that you have in mind. Important to realize that you must own your own architecture. You can't rely on the industry to own it for you. You can't rely on a single vendor to own it for you. The industry should own it. You should own it, but it should always be based on open standards. So don't let them make it up. Don't let the builder come and convince you that the round door is the new standard. Go with the industry standard, adopt it, embrace it, but make sure that whoever brings you solutions, they can position it in context of this end-to-end architecture. They can convince you of the value. They can help you integrate it into your end-to-end solution set and help you deal with the complexity of that. So let's talk a little bit more about the detailed approach that we follow on architecture. So when we start from a MineRP perspective with a reference architecture, we have a high-level view that is supported by the open group work that exists in the EMMV model, and therefore it's endorsed by the open standards committees, and it's an open industry standard. The fact that this standard isn't widely adopted in mining is really a reflection on the capability and maturity in mining. If you look at other industries, you will find that open standards settle down and get adopted because the value is recognized. That as soon as we all adopt and embrace a standard, we have common language, we can relate to each other, we can talk to the same topics, and we can pigeonhole solutions and fit them into spaces where they belong. So important to have a reference architecture within which we start. And then once we've got a reference architecture, we can express this ideal end state that we want to be in context of that reference architecture. So what does it mean to my business? What does it mean to my data flow? What does it mean to my solution sets? Important to understand that architecture is not just a technical construct. It's not just about the system. It's not just about the data. It's also about the business, the processes and the organizational structures you have to build to have a successful business. And if you can then express the view of the end state that you want to be in. So draw the house that you want to have. How many rooms? How many kitchens? What is the functionality that you need? What is the aesthetics that you want? Keep that end state in mind always and use it as a touchstone so that every guy who comes along with the next phase of development can position that in context of the journey and where he's taking you and how he's taking you to the end state. So once I understand where the end state is, start with what you have deployed today, because nobody starts with a greenfield situation. You've been in business for a long time, you've invested in IT for a long time, you have a number of systems. Document those in context of the architecture so that you understand what the starting point is that the journey takes off from. And understand that when you document your current reality, don't let that contaminate your future view. That's why we would swap the model around. Others would say start with what you have. We would stop and say rather just envision what you ideally would want and then go and look at what you have. Otherwise your current will contaminate your future. Express the ideal future view that you would want and then document the current view. As soon as you know where you are and you understand where you want to be, now you must consider the transition strategy and journey that you want to embark on. What is your appetite for investment? What is your appetite for risk? What is the time frame within which you have to do it? What is the competitive forces in play? There's a whole number of questions you want to consider when you plan your transition strategy. And as soon as you've planned the strategy, look at the options available. Understand there's always more than one option. Don't let anybody hold you at ransom and say you absolutely must do this, because it's like holding a gun against your head and say make this investment, it's the only way. There's always more than one way. For us, typically, you can divide it into a middle-of-the-road strategy, a high-road strategy, and a low-road strategy. High-road strategy, ideal, unconstrained resource, lots of investment capacity. Take the ideal strategy and implement that as quickly as you can. Low-road, typically, for those who are constrained in terms of investment capability and what they can do. And then middle-of-the-road hopefully gets you a bit of a hybrid approach between both. And then the trick would be, as you start to execute against that, let everyone who wants to implement the next phase of your transition journey give you a solution architecture. What will it look like? How does it fit into the overall picture that you've drawn? How does that get you towards the end state? So that there's a clear target for every phased delivery that you do, because your future view is a multi-year view. It's never a one-year view. If it's a one-year view, then you're too tactical about it. Make it a strategic view. 3 to 5 years out, this is where I want to be. Then every phase gets me closer to that, and repeat the process for every next phase you do. So when someone says, here's the next phase of execution on the strategy and roadmap that we have, let's just revisit what we've achieved with the execution of the previous phase. What did we expect? What did we actually deliver? What was achieved? What was not achieved? And with that as a basis, plan your next phase. So if you do architecture well, you can get phased execution with value extraction along the way, and you can get to a point where you actually never compromise on your end state. All you could compromise on is the time frame within which you do it and the investment that you incur doing it. So for us, architecture is a really important construct. It's important to look at architecture solutions. It's important to understand that your providers understand architecture. Otherwise, what you're going to end up with is a heap of bricks, right? So do you want a house, aesthetically pleasing and functional? Do you want a heap of bricks? Best you get an architect involved if you don't want a heap of bricks. Thank you.